So as usual, we're going to do just a few minutes of calming meditation, working with the breath, give ourselves a chance to come into this space with a bit more focus. And then after that, I'll lead you in setting motivation. And today we're going to do a meditation on the first part of a technique for developing bodhicitta that's called equalizing self and others. It's a bit like equanimity, but it has a slightly different flavor to it. So anyway, we'll be experimenting with that today. So again, just find a good meditation posture, one that works for you, and begin to attend to the breath in whatever way is suitable for your mind. Some people, again, tune into the sensation at the nose, some on the lower abdomen, some just kind of be aware of the entire breathing in and breathing out that occurs in the body. You can count the breaths, do whatever works for you in terms of working with the breath for the next few minutes. And whenever you see that the mind wanders away from the breath, guide the mind back to the breath. So I'll ring the bell to begin the meditation. So now let's set our motivation for today's meditation. And I'd like to invite you to first just acknowledge all the ways that you do help others, that you do hold others with some regard, some concern. And it might be limited right now, but this is what we're always working on, is continuing to develop our qualities, to expand them, to be able to eventually embrace all beings with these thoughts of love, compassion, and so on. But acknowledge what you have already done, the ways in which you do have care and concern for those people who are in your lives, or pets, other beings that are very much involved in your well-being. And just rejoice that you have already demonstrated these qualities. The work we do is simply to develop them further and generate that motivation for doing this meditation today, to try to go beyond the boundaries we currently have, so that our love and our compassion becomes boundless, immeasurable. So again, this meditation is part of the technique of exchanging the self-concern we have for ourselves with the concern for others. And the initial step is to first equalize oneself with others. So first, I'd like you to just reflect on your own desire to be happy, your own desire to not suffer, and moreover, to become very clear about the ways that perhaps we become a bit more selfish with regard to those wishes. This mind we call self-cherishing, self-centeredness kind of takes over, and we become very narrowly focused on me, myself, and I, my own well-being. Or if we extend it to others, it's only to others that we care about, others who we're attached to. So spend a few minutes just getting in touch with that desire that, again, is perfectly fine. This is the starting point for all the Buddha's teachings. Each of us wanting to be happy, wanting to not suffer. But then see how that plays out in your life. Does it have a tendency to become somewhat self-centered? So then let's go on to the first step in how we begin to correct this to some degree. We have to begin to see that others are equal to us, at least. that this place that we are coming from is the same place that others are coming from. So begin to think about the beings in the world. We generally divide them into these three categories of the friends, the dear ones, the strangers, the difficult people. But regardless of what group those individuals are in, they're exactly the same as you, and simply wanting to be happy, never really having enough happiness, always searching for something to bring them some measure of happiness, pleasure, some relief. They are also exactly the same as you, and simply wanting to not suffer. Every one of them doing everything they can to avoid pain, difficulty, to not have to experience what is unpleasant. So spend a few minutes investigating this starting point, which is the recognition that every single being is exactly the same as you in their desire to be happy and their wish to not suffer. And again, see what conclusions you can already come to in regard to that, in terms of whose happiness is more important then, whose freedom from suffering is more important, if we are all the same in those fundamental desires. So having taken a look at how sentient beings are exactly like us in this fundamental desire to be happy, to not suffer, let's try to move in the direction of wanting to equally benefit every one of these beings. First, by looking at the fact that they do want happiness, yet they are bereft of true happiness, all sentient beings never having enough happiness. The example we can use is if we were to have 10 beings in front of us, 10 people, regardless of what category they're drawn from, strangers, friends, enemies, if they're exactly the same in wanting to be happy, if they're exactly the same in never having enough happiness, if they all needed something, say every one of them needed $5, and we had more than enough resources, how could we discriminate? How could we say we'll give it to these 5 and not those 5? Or we'll give it to 9 of the 10, but not the last one? If they're exactly the same, equal in that way, their wish for happiness, their need for happiness, how could we discriminate? How could we possibly benefit some and not benefit the rest? So spend a few minutes investigating, trying to want to equally benefit every one of these beings simply on that basis of their desire for happiness. And in the next step, we look at the other side, that these beings don't want to suffer, and moreover, that they continue to suffer due to all the causes that they are creating blindly. They continue to experience the dissatisfaction of samsara, continue to have problems, difficulties, illness. So here we use the example of ourselves being a highly trained medical professional, and we have 10 patients, all with the same ailment. Again, doesn't matter what group they came from, whether these patients are people we know that are friends, whether they are people we dislike, whether they are people that we don't know at all. They're all the same in that they are suffering from this ailment. They're all the same in needing relief from that, wanting to not suffer. If I were that medical professional, how could I possibly discriminate? How could I say, as I did with the other side of it, only 5 of you get the medicine, the other 5 have to suffer? Or 9 of you get the medicine, that last one has to suffer. I should want to equally benefit every one of these beings once more, simply on the basis of the criterion that they are suffering. Doesn't need anymore, doesn't require anymore. That's enough for me to want to equally benefit each one of them. So again, spend a few minutes reflecting on trying to equalize the attitude towards all of these beings, and in a way then also to diminish our own sense of self-importance, so we can begin to think of others through this lens of seeing them with an equal regard. So now, having equalized to some degree our perception of others in terms of their desire to be happy, their desire to not suffer, and how we should want to equally benefit every one of them. Go back once more to the initial reflection and see how much we are focused on our own happiness, our own freedom from suffering. Shouldn't we be equally concerned for others? If there are beings that need happiness just like ourselves, isn't it equally important that they have that? If there are beings who are suffering just like ourselves, isn't it equally important that they be free from that suffering? Again, just try to spend a minute or two reflecting on diminishing that sense of self-importance. What does it look like, to not think of me, myself, and I all day, but to think equally with regard to all beings, wanting all of our actions to contribute to the welfare of all, to lead all beings to happiness, to help all beings to be free from suffering. And let's have some thoughts of dedication at the end. So in doing this reflection, may we be able to live our lives from that space of equal regard for all beings and a wish to benefit every one of them equally, and make that strong dedication that all of our actions become the cause for us to eventually be able to place all beings in perfect happiness, to free each and every one of them from all suffering and dissatisfaction. And dedicate very strongly for the good health and long lives of all of our precious teachers, especially His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Geshe Tupten Sherab, Venerable Rabina, all the teachers that we and others have in their lives. May they continue to abide in this world with good health, very long lives, so that we and others can benefit from their presence. And then finally, send this positive energy out to anyone else you're holding in your heart right now, those beings who are experiencing problems, difficulties, who are ill, who are dying, who have died. Think that they benefit from what we've done here today. They are free from their suffering, and all the causes that will lead to perfect happiness become manifest for them. And may all beings find true peace and happiness through what we've done here today in our meditation. Great. Thank you all so much. Everyone have a very wonderful day and stay safe and healthy. Okay. Be well now.